We take two playing cards, the King of Diamonds and the Knight of Clubs. The Knight of Clubs is the selection, so I'm going to lose that back into the deck. And then the King of Diamonds is the locator, so the King of Diamonds is going to find the Knight of Clubs. I'm going to do it by throwing this into the deck face up like this. No funny moves, no sleight of hand, no nothing, just very fairly show you the card on top of the King of Diamonds, which is this one. And you'll see that it's the Nine of Clubs. I'm Daniel Madison, this is Jab. The Nine of Clubs will be the selection. I'll throw it into the deck at a random position. We use the King of Diamonds, and I throw it into the deck face up as a locator card. The King will find the Nine of Clubs. And as fair as I possibly can do this, no funny moves, I'll just lift the cards up. You can see the King landed directly next to the Nine of Clubs. I'm Daniel Madison, and this is Jab, and this is achievable with much thanks to the Black Mariah. Now in this case, the Black Mariah helped me position the Knight of Clubs exactly where I needed it, which means I just have to repeat that pattern twice when I'm inserting the King of Diamonds. So I put this in the exact same position that I put the Knight of Clubs, and the Black Mariah allows us to achieve that. Now, anybody watching this video doesn't know what the Black Mariah is, go back a few videos. I offered a masterclass on the Black Mariah, free for all of my subscribers right here at YouTube. Essentially, I've clipped the index corner, changing that 3mm to 4mm, meaning that this card can never be lost in the deck because I can find it with my thumb. Like this, I can find it on this side with my finger, and I can find it by dribbling the cards like this. The deck stops automatically at the Black Mariah. I don't want to repeat myself, so if you don't know what this is, go back and watch that masterclass, then come back to this video. My previous tutorial graph is very similar to this, in that the Queen of Spades, the Black Mariah, offers us an instruction. It tells us, it gives us a sensory notification when to make the action. I've got the Black Mariah about 15 cards down, and then you put the selection on top of it. In our case, it's the Nine of Clubs, and then close the deck. Now we can find that card very easy just by dribbling the deck like so, and it stops automatically at the selection. And of course, we're using that to our advantage by throwing in a locator playing card. It's important that this playing card goes in there face up because it makes it visually as fair as it possibly could be, especially when you leave it in a mess on the surface, especially, Charlie, when you invite your participant to inspect and find that playing card. It's important that you dribble the deck to a surface or to a participant's hands is a wonderful thing if you can do that. Whenever you can bring in the participant and allow them to feel and take part in the moment, and they can actually feel the playing cards land in their hands, it just makes it feel like real magic. One thing that's going to help us a lot is the height of which we start the dribble. So if I start the dribble here, low down, I'm closing the gap between those playing cards as they fall, making it very difficult for myself. If I lift the deck much higher up here, the distance between each playing card as the playing card falls, there's much more room there, making it easier for me. When I feel the Black Mariah, not only have I got more opportunity in distance from the deck to the surface, but there's more space between each card, giving me a further advantage to land this directly next to their playing card. Now, when you're watching this and you're listening to me, it might sound impossible, and it might sound like a skill that's going to take years and years of practice, but this is something that when you practice, when you just try it a few times, you'll realize how easy it is. And when it goes wrong, I have a few outs to talk about, but first let's talk about the actual technique, because there is a technique. So I'm going to lift my hand. It's about 30 centimeters, maybe a little bit less from the table. I have a comfortable height, and it's usually directly in line with my heart. So when I start dribbling the playing cards, I dribble them fairly slow. I know when the Black Mariah is going to hit my fingertips. Muscle memory has served me so well with tricks like this, but you don't have to rely on muscle memory because you're going to get that sensory notification. And as soon as you feel the Black Mariah, the difference of your thumb, and remember, for those who have watched the Black Mariah, we're dribbling from the thumb, so the cards are falling away from finger 3, and we're dribbling from thumb like this. So you're going to feel it more on your thumb than you are on your finger. So when I feel that, that's the moment. Obviously, that's the moment to throw the card inside. But there's a lot more to it than that. There's a lot that I can tell you that's going to help you with this move. So first of all, you have to experience and feel and understand the rhythm. If my hand is over here with the King of Diamonds and I dribble here, and I wait for that notification, if I wait for that Queen of Spades, and then I go in, I'm causing problems because I'm not giving myself enough chance to get that card in the right position. My hand's moving too fast, so there's a chance that I'm going to make a mess with the deck. There's a bigger chance that I'm going to get this card in the wrong position. So it's a question of timing. When I start dribbling the cards, this hand with the King of Diamonds starts moving closer to the deck, right? It starts making its journey as the playing cards start to fall. I don't wait for this moment and then throw it in. This is already making its way into the deck as soon as I start dribbling the cards. So if I try and do this slowly, watch the King of Diamonds, and then it arrives just on time. Now this comes with time and this comes with practice, but it's not as difficult as you might think or as it might appear now when you're watching me explain. Now please don't be tempted to do this. Don't have a pause. It is much better to get the trick wrong, to mess up the trick, than it is to pause, because you're just giving the entire game away. If the audience, obviously Charlie, if the participant or the audience recognize that there's been a gap in the dribble, then the trick has been explained to them and it's not as impressive. Also, when I throw that King of Diamonds into the deck, ideally I don't want it to be flush inside the deck. I want it to be protruding, sticking out from the deck somehow. Because if this card gets lost in the deck, and I'll just put it in to show you, if it gets lost like this where we can't even see it, then we're just inviting suspicion from the participant, from the audience. They're going to think, this is a sleight of hand trick. He's going to do something at this point. But even with that being said, if it gets lost, obviously you're going to be performing this for participants. I'm performing for Charlie. Charlie can't spread the deck, but when you're doing this for participants, if you get this situation or not, however that card arrives in the deck, you invite your participant every single time to search through face down like this to find the King of Diamonds. And if you've done this right, the King of Diamonds will always be underneath the Nine of Clubs. So in this case, the Nine of Clubs is going to be on top of the King of Diamonds right here. Before I get ahead of myself, just to give you an example of that king sticking out, protruding, this is what I mean. So the king is out of the deck, right? It's not flush, you can see it. And look at the mess that I've made. And look at the gap between these two packets, the bottom packet and the upper packet. I can just lift up right here and show the Nine of Clubs exactly above the King of Diamonds. No sleight of hand, no suspicion. It just is the skill, the trick that you're presenting it to be. What if it goes wrong? It can go wrong, it will go wrong. But the beautiful thing about this, I've done this so many times and I've practiced it so many times that it's difficult to get it wrong. It's difficult to miss, because once you've built that muscle memory, once you've found that rhythm and that flow, and you know when to throw the King of Diamonds in, once you get the timing perfect, which doesn't take much, it honestly doesn't take much, but once you get it right, it's hard to get wrong. Your confidence will shoot through the roof and you'll be in a position where you don't have to worry about whether it's landed next to their card or not. You'll just know. And also, because of that sensory notification, you will know if you've missed it or not. So you kind of do need a few ways out of that, because you don't want it to just be wrong and then, oh yeah, sometimes it goes wrong anyway, let me show you something else. You still want to find a way to make it right. But before I talk about the outs, let's think about the idea of giving the participant the option. Is your card going to be above the King of Diamonds or below the King of Diamonds? Now, if you ask that question after you've inserted it into the deck, it's much more magical. But you might ask, like, how can you have control over that? Now, there is a trick, and I only ever thought about this once. The last time I performed this for somebody, they asked me this question at this moment. So firstly, I lost the King of Diamonds in the deck. It's in position, right? I know it's in position. I felt that Nine of Clubs. He wanted the option. Can I decide if the 9 is on top or on bottom? Not the 9, but the selected playing card. Is it above or below? So I had to think quickly, and this is what I thought of. So I gathered the deck like this, and I held it here like this. And I said, so is it the card above the king or the card below the king? If he says the card above the king, which he said, then I'm already in position. So I just spread the deck and show the card above the king to be the Nine of Clubs. But look how the deck is held in my hand. If he said below the king, I would just do this, turn the deck face up and then spread. And then now that you see the Nine of Clubs below the King of Diamonds. Now, I didn't think about this until that moment was presented to me by my participant, because I don't believe it needs to be a part of this trick. The trick is beautiful enough that the card landed next to their card. It doesn't have to be above or below, but I wouldn't be a good teacher if I didn't offered. Now, what if it does go wrong? The beautiful thing about the Black Mariah is that corner is clipped away from the playing card. So when the deck is spread, you can see where that card is. I can see the Black Mariah right here because this corner is missing. So you can always see it in the deck. If you know that card is 15 cards down, you know that you're going to get this somewhere close by. If you miss, you know it's going to be very close. So let's look at a few of those options. And Charlie, I'm going to try and get it wrong, right? I'm going to try and miss the 9 of clubs. Right, so now I think I'm 3 cards away from the 9 of clubs. Let me see if I'm right. So the Queen of Spades is here. I'm actually just 2 cards, not even 2 cards, just 1 card away. In this case, the King of Diamonds is on top of the 9 of clubs. But I found that out by just spreading the deck and looking for the Black Mariah. So I can see the Black Mariah here. So I know that the 9 of clubs is below the King of Diamonds. So it didn't go wrong. Like, you can throw that king and have it land either side of the 9 of clubs, and it's next to it, but you have to know. And the reason why I knew it was wrong, well, obviously, firstly, I tried to get it wrong. I made it wrong on purpose, but even when it went wrong, I spread through the deck and I looked for the Black Mariah, and the Black Mariah told me, once again, she told me the position of the King of Diamonds. Now let's try and get that wrong again. I'll try and throw that king in a little bit earlier. So that's early, that's like 5 cards early. So if I spread, and I first look for the Black Mariah, and do you know what? There's 1, 2, 3, and it's 4 cards below the Black Mariah. So if I just show you, so the king, 1, 2, 3, and then the Black Mariah is here, so the 9 of clubs is there. This is a strange situation because I can sleight of hand my way out of this in a few different ways, and none of these ideas are good, and none of these ideas are recommended. I would sooner at this point say, I missed it. I know I missed it. So I know I missed it. I know that these aren't your cards. So let's look at the cards above and below the king. I know they're not yours. I missed it. Right. So now you get a second chance. You're giving yourself a second chance. Not ideal. I know it takes a lot away from the trick, but I'd sooner do that than try and sleight of hand my way to the 9 of clubs. However, let me show you how to sleight of hand your way to the 9 of clubs. So we're now 4 cards apart from the 9 of clubs here. I'm going to leave the King of Diamonds protruding outwards like this, away from me, and I'm going to square up the deck. And as I'm squaring up the deck, I'm going to riffle up to the Black Mariah, to the 9 of clubs here. Now I'm going to take this, hopefully I can show it properly on this camera, but I'm going to take this top packet and I'm going to clip the King of Diamonds between finger 2 and 3 here, like this, and I'm going to pull that bottom packet downwards like this as I turn this up to show as if I'm showing it's landed next to the 9 of clubs. So that should, even if I put this halfway down in this stack, like this, it's near the bottom. So if I find that break, now if I clip that King of Diamonds here and I turn this up like this, and now I point and say, look, it landed next to this card, and I can even put it back like this to make it look like that's the position it was in. Obviously that seems much fairer when it's only 2 or 3 cards down, 4 cards down. So once again, that's about 4 cards down. So I riffle up to the 9, I've found the 9, I've clipped that king. This bottom packet comes away first like this as I turn this up to say, look, it landed next to this card. Is this your card? Of course it is. Now what if it lands above it? You have a few options. I mean, it depends how far away it is from that card. So let's just put it in a position. Let's say it's 2 cards. I mean, if it's 2 cards above the Black Mariah, that means it's 1 card above theirs. So in this case, I would take everything, lift the king up like this, and as I'm putting this down, prepare for a double lift, execute a double lift to show that it landed next to this card. The nice thing about this is I'm showing them that it landed here, obviously next to that card, but now I'm in a position to control that 9 to do something else with it, or to do that trick again, because obviously I'm controlling it to this position. And the same thing applies for like 3 or 4 cards. Like I'm not sure if you could do a quadruple turnover and get away with it, but it might be your only option in that case. Let's say we've got 4 cards. So it's 3 cards above the 9 in that position. Same thing, no breaks or anything. I'll just do this fairly as if it's landed in that position. I lift up the king from here. I'm going to spread everything over in this hand as I'm putting this down to see where it is. Now I'm going to square up and turn over 3 cards as if they're 1. And obviously you can make that look like you're turning over 1 card. but it just doesn't seem as fair as the actual genuine version where you're actually throwing it inside. Now let's back up a little bit and let's talk about the way that I did it in the introduction, which is with a duplicate 9 of clubs. We take 2 playing cards, the King of Diamonds and the 9 of Clubs. The 9 of Clubs is the selection, so I'm going to lose that back into the deck. And then the King of Diamonds is the locator, so the King of Diamonds is going to find the 9 of Clubs. I'm going to do it by throwing this into the deck face up like this. No funny moves, no sleight of hand, no nothing, just very fairly show you the card on top of the King of Diamonds, which is this one. And you'll see that it's the 9 of Clubs. I'm Daniel Madison, this is Jab. Now this version is not the fairest version because I used duplicates. So the reason I used the 9 of Clubs is to make that flow and make that performance of it fast and to the point. But you can do the same thing if you want to, because I'm putting a 9 of Clubs behind the Queen of Spades. I'm deciding what the selected playing card is, but the demonstration clearly demonstrates that the skill part of this, the trick part of this, is a real thing. It's not a trick. So I'm displaying the King of Diamonds, I'm taking the 9 of Clubs. Now I can throw this 9 of Clubs in anywhere, but I don't have to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway. I can throw it in anywhere. Now the eagle-eyed viewer and the participant who watches closely will have seen that that went below the lower half of the deck, so it wouldn't make sense if I found it near the top of the deck. I always imagine when I'm performing that I'm performing for myself, and I will not take it easy on myself. Like if I saw that, I would call myself out. I would say, yo, Madison, something's wrong about that. I'm going to call you out on it. It's a good practice to have in your mind when you're practicing, to not be a sausage head, but to challenge yourself nonetheless. It will make you more professional. It will make you think about things in a way that you wouldn't when you realize that, you know, most audiences and most participants, they don't see that kind of stuff, and they let you get away with that kind of stuff. Even if they do see it, they wouldn't say anything. But it speaks very high volumes of professionalism if you think about these things and you take these things into consideration and you get them right. That's why we don't need the duplicate, because of the Black Mariah, which means we can take any freely selected playing card and apparently lose it anywhere in the deck, and we're just positioning that card behind the Black Mariah. So let's do that. So I'll lose both those cards in the deck. Man, this hurts my brain, Charlie. I can't stand having my playing cards shuffled, false shuffle theory. So if I put the Black Mariah 15 cards down, about 15 cards down, have a playing card freely selected, so let's go with the 6 of Spades. Susan Sausage selects the 6 of Spades. Perfect. Then we have a random playing card, the 9 of Clubs, which just purely coincidentally happens to be on the top of the deck. I know my Queen of Spades is 15 cards down from the top. This is where I need to put the 6 of Spades. Now, I can do a half full shuffle, so I just hold the top half in position with finger 2 like this. So simple. Shuffle all the cards for real below that. Now when I throw the 6 of Spades in, I'm throwing it in the position of the Black Mariah. So we're about to repeat the same move twice. It's the exact same move twice, which obviously gives us a moment of practice and preparation before the actual move itself. So it looks like we're just losing this at a random position in the deck, but that's the practice for what we're about to do next. So just to show you that landed, in fact, I would argue that when I threw that 6 of Spades in, then there was a bit of a gap. I wasn't happy with that, Charlie, so let me do that again. So I throw the 6 of Spades in, randomly, apparently randomly, anywhere in the deck, and I straighten up. Now I've got a few options. I can just go ahead and throw this straight in, but to make this look so much more beautiful, I'm going to shuffle the cards. Now just to show you that I landed next to the Black Mariah, 6 of Spades, Black Mariah, the same shuffle, clip the top half with finger 2 like this, and then shuffle the cards on the bottom for real like this. And it just looks like you're shuffling the deck of cards. You don't need a grand false shuffle or these big technical false shuffles. You just want to make it look sloppy, look like you're really shuffling those playing cards. And of course, I kept the 6 of Spades next to the Black Mariah, 15 cards down from the top. So now I've just got to repeat the same move that I just did, putting the 6 of Spades in the deck. take the Nine of Clubs, explain to your participant, this is a locator card, it's going to find your card. Now, if you are confident with this move, the way that I am after a little bit of practice, then I would very confidently say up front, the Nine of Clubs is going to land touching the Six of Spades face to face. So the Six of Spades will be on top of the Nine of Clubs, not underneath it, on top of it. So then you dribble, throw that 9 in, and the way that this has landed is beautiful, Charlie, perfect. Nobody has to touch anything. My participant can now come along and look underneath there without touching anything, and you can see with no manipulation, no touching whatsoever, that this card is the Six of Spades. Obviously I have to touch it to show you, but even in that situation, if it was a stage show and people can't get close enough to touch it in the way that I just suggested, you can just do this. One simple finger and touch and lift up, and you can see they landed next to the Six of Spades exactly how I said it would. Now, if you want to turn this into a bit of a different trick, present the 2 black queens. Maybe you're doing a few sandwich routines. I would highly recommend cameo routines, which I taught a few years ago. I'll leave links to them in this video. But cameo, you can do a series of sandwich tricks first with the black queens, and then maybe you could end with this or slip this idea somewhere in the middle. So the selected playing cards, Nine of Clubs, I'm gonna lose both queens somewhere in the deck in random positions. Right, so Queen of Spades is lost. Now I'm going to lose the Queen of Clubs somewhere in a random position in the deck. Obviously I made them land next to each other, but they were a little bit further down in the deck than I like. So just for that sake, I'm going to shift it closer to the top 15 cards down. So now I have the Queen of Spades and the Queen of Clubs directly next to each other. And we're going to lose the Nine of Clubs in the deck, at which point, once we've lost it, we can show that the Nine of Clubs landed directly in between the black queens. Now, there's so many different ways of doing this. There's ways to do this without the Black Mariah. There's ways that you can do this for real with a lot of practice and a lot of patience. And there's quite a lot more tricks that you can do with jab or the jab idea. And by the way, I call it jab because I don't like the actual word that's used for this plot, the S word. It's just a very violent word, and I don't want to give it my energy. Now, I'm going into a lot more detail with this trick for the Malayans. This is an idea that I first taught in the MAD System Masterclass. I'll leave a link to that in this video description. So madison.ist if you want the extended version of this, if you want to hear me going into more detail about jab. If you have any other performance ideas or tricks with jab or the Black Mariah, let us know in the comments, and stay close. I have a lot more on the way to teach you about the Black Mariah and all the weird and wonderful things that it can help us achieve. I am Daniel Madison. That was Jab. Mad love.